Time now to take a look at business, and Catherine Bennett is in the studio for us. Catherine, we're starting with news in oil and a record-breaking IPO.
That's right. The Saudi oil company Aramco has raised a record $25.6 billion in its initial public offering, making it the world's biggest IPO. But despite that incredible figure, it's actually a step down for the company. It had originally aimed to raise $100 billion. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed wanted to use the IPO as a lever to crank open the Saudi economy to foreign investors. But no one was interested. So Aramco had to rely on Saudi and regional investors, tempting them with promised bonus shares and loans to encourage them to buy stakes. Camille Nedlek has more on the story.
A historic day as state-owned oil company Saudi Aramco launched its IPO. At $25 billion, it's the biggest flotation ever. The Saudi kingdom is betting on increased oil prices to give shareholders good returns. And as leaders gathered in Vienna for the OPEC conference, talks on cutting oil production to bolster prices continued late on Thursday. The IPO was years in the making. First announced in 2016, it was scheduled for 2018, but later pushed back. The money raised will help diversify Saudi Arabia's economy away from oil.
That's the paradox. To diversify away from petrol, they need to have petrol and its revenue so that they can invest in diversifying economically, which is the #1 project of Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And that's what he'll be judged on long term. He's promised the country's youth good jobs off the back of this diversification.
But this windfall is significantly less than what the prince had first hoped for. The listing gives the company a valuation of $1.7 trillion, a downgrade from the original $2 trillion, and still too high to lure Western investors, who've also been put off by a perceived lack of transparency and the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Most shareholders are domestic, with well-off families feeling pressured to invest out of patriotism or to get back into the good graces of the royals after a corruption crackdown that started 2 years ago. Trading is scheduled for later this month.
The oil giant's public offering has come in the middle of a 2-day OPEC meeting in Vienna. Today, members of the Organisation of Petroleum Exporting Countries will try to reach an agreement on cutting production. They're expected to agree to cut output by an extra 500,000 barrels per day, bringing the total production cut to 1.7 million barrels a day. Saudi Arabia has been pushing for other countries that are overproducing to comply with their quota. It of course has a vested interest. A smaller supply would push up oil prices and boost Aramco's shares in early trading. Looking at the energy markets this morning, oil prices actually slipped in early trading, with Brent futures down 0.16% to $63.31 the barrel, and the WTI also down to $58.37 a barrel. Let's take a look at the markets now. European markets opened higher this morning, taking their cue from Asia and with investors positive about progress in US-China trade talks. London's FTSE and the CAC 40 both rose 0.25%, and Frankfurt's DAX was up 0.33%. Over in Asia, stocks also moved higher, with Tokyo's Nikkei rising 0.25%, even after data released today showed that Japanese households cut spending for the first time in almost a year, after an increase in a sales tax. In Hong Kong, stocks moved up almost 1%, followed also by Seoul's Kospi, whereas the Shanghai Composite moved up almost 0.5%. China said on Friday that it would offer a tariff waiver on some imports of US soybean and pork. Beijing has increased tariffs on US pork 3 times since March 2018. It comes after reports that the US and China disagreed about the size of agriculture purchases. US President Donald Trump wants China to buy $40 to $50 billion worth of farm goods a year, quite a stretch from the $8.6 billion the country bought last year. The waivers are a sign that the two countries are edging closer to a trade deal, although officials are remaining tight-lipped about progress. They're hoping to finalise phase 1 of the deal before the 15th of December, when more US tariffs are due to go into effect. That's it for the business news. Perhaps that could be Trump's Christmas present, finally reaching a US trade deal with China.
Would be amazing. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks very much.